And welcome back, fourth and long fans. It's your footy correspondent, Coach Donnie Hess here. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I have two very special guests here for us to go through the AFL Grand Final and review all the action from this weekend. I have two members of the Coat Hanger Footy Podcast from Sydney. I have Miss Fiona Lamb and Coach Kiwi here to join me. Ladies, it is great to see you. Thank you for joining me.
G'day and
Thank you.
happy Mad Monday. It's great to join you, Donnie.
Thank you so much, Coach.
How are you? It's great to spread the word across more countries.
Yeah, you'd actually be surprised how many people actually over here in the States really enjoy it. I'm part of a USAFL team here in Des Moines, Iowa, and you'd be shocked how many people over here thoroughly love the game of footy, and many young ladies who love the AFLW. And sad to say, our AFLW season is over and we have crowned a champion. We will crown for the first time ever a new champion, the Brisbane Lions. I have to ask, Fee, what are your thoughts on the Brisbane Lions finding a way to knock off the Adelaide Crows?
Third time lucky. I was so desperate. Someone was doing polls on Twitter saying, are you going for Brisbane with your heart and Adelaide with your head, or, whatever? And that was me. It was Brisbane with my heart, but I was certain that they weren't going to make it again. And I was already heartbroken. You might have heard that clip that I've played a few times on Twitter saying, why can't we have nice things? Why can't they do it? Because this is the first grand final that Kiwi and I haven't attended. So we were there for the heartbreak and the agony and the ecstasy of Adelaide winning and the Bulldogs the following year beating Brisbane. They are a phenomenal team, and they are often overlooked, and they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder about that. We have friends in Brisbane who take lots of time to remind us that Brisbane are a contender every year, particularly after the expansion. Brisbane Lions were raided. A lot of players were taken, and so it felt as if their glory days were over. But no. They came in, they managed to shut down Adelaide in significant ways. We didn't see very much of Erin Phillips. She got one behind, that was it. I'm elated. I'm still on a high. I'm so excited. I was at a pub watching this year, and we were on our feet for a lot of the match. It was so exciting. So I am over the moon.
Coach, what are your thoughts?
Probably the opposite of me, I think. I thought Brisbane would get up this time round, and I kind of hoped they didn't. So I really wanted the Crows to win.
Why? That's boring.
Yeah, no, a lot of people say that. No, I just love the way the Crows go about this style of football. They've got some versatility. They can go up the corridor, or they can get it wide. They've got some key players all across the ground that are just exciting to watch. The sisters Mills and Button, they're just exciting additions to an already classy team with Stevie Lee, Erin, Ebony Marinoff, like just so many really good ones. And good to see Sarah Allen just year in, year out. I met her as, what was she, about 14 years old. Many years ago, and just to see her go from strength to strength every year. They give her a little bit more responsibility. This year she pretty much ran the whole back line without Chelsea Randall, and I think did an outstanding job. And she's still pretty young. I think she's be 21, 22 now. You always love seeing the youngsters come through and stand up to the big tests that they constantly get. So I really wanted Adelaide to win. I thought Brisbane might, and Craig Starcevich is a very clever coach, and I think he knows really how to get the best out of his players, and he's got some really exciting players up there. And I spent some time with Darebin Falcons, so got a soft spot for any Falcons, and one of them is obviously Lauren Arnell. I'm really excited to see her go out with a premiership, but not just that, she got a goal in the grand final. And you know, there's been so much around the recruitment of young players, and people overlook the contribution of those who are experienced and body-built footballers, generally in their 30s, such as Lauren Arnell. And sad she's decided to retire. Same with Emma Zilke. I think they probably still had a year, or like, I thought Zilk's probably had a couple of years in her, but I understand she wants to go out on the top. So yeah, stoked for them, absolutely. But yeah, I really want the Crows to win, just to throw in the mix.
Well, I'll be the tiebreaker in this. Okay, we had one that was a static, one that wasn't. And for me, I had said in my preview show to it, I said it's so hard to go against a team that has Aaron Phillips. But to be honest, as I watched this game, I was like, the Crows got rattled. I don't know what it was. It was like Brisbane kind of surprised them. Like the old typical, I can't remember the quote is that everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth, and Brisbane kind of, that the first goal by Hodder was just like, you could tell the Crows were like, whoa, they weren't expecting that. And it was like their superstars didn't play as well as they normally do. They were more fumbly, they were more indecisive, and Brisbane's backline and their midfield just played their best game at the right game. It was an incredible game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had so much fun watching it. I mean, I don't know about you two, but I mean, Chelsea Hodder made herself a superstar with the 2 goals that she kicked. I mean, can you believe the second one?
I know. I was joking about the ball of God. In previous games, it bounced the wrong way, and she's got the foot of God, I think. I just think what poise to say, stuff it, I'm just going to have a go, and her the accuracy it wasn't just a fluke. You know, she's such a brilliant and exciting player to watch, and I haven't grown tired of replaying that. Still, I watched it a few times this morning.
I know there's a Twitter account for the USAFL, and they kept, one of them was, did we just see that, with like the eyes out emojis? Like, you literally could not believe it. And the fact that she has I'll say it, the cojones to go for it was just absolutely incredible. And she's going to be a superstar. I cannot wait to see her progress. But the fact that she does it on a grand final stage, like, you can't top that. That was absolutely amazing. And I mean, I agree. Another person said, it was like, why can't goal of the year be wait until after the grand final? Because that second one should be the goal of the year in anybody's book, but sadly it won't be.
Is this her first year, Courtney Hodder? Or has she been in for a couple of years, Coach?
Put me on the spot here. Yeah, I think she's been in for a couple of years.
She has. All right. She's hitting her peak now. That's for sure.
Yeah, she's come through. I'm pretty sure she's come through the talent pathways up.
Yeah. Who was saying that? Yeah, somebody on Twitter saw her play in 2016 in the interstate championships, but it was Western Australia. Would she have been playing for Western Australia, or?
Yeah, I think she's a WA product. I think.
Right.
Because I know some of the Freo fans.
She's fabulous.
I know some of the Freo fans that I know of weren't too happy that she didn't find her way into Freo's camp, unfortunately.
Now, this was something that I think people, maybe I'm the only one who didn't realise it in the first year, just how much talent came from Western Australia. Chelsea Randall, Western Australia. Sabs Frederick, Western Australia. Who else? I can't think of anyone else right now off the top of my head, but I would have expected them to stay in Western Australia, but no, they travelled and they found their new homes. I mean, Sabs has moved twice now, but it's a rich talent pool, that's for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And an absolutely amazing performance. And then I'm going to do a question without notice. I'm going to ask both of you ladies. Aaron Phillips, she falls short in this final, the first time she's ever lost a grand final in the AFLW. Does she hang up the boots, or do you think she plays one more year?
One more. I think she plays one more. I heard Shani Layton predict her retirement. I think that she would have said this was her last year if that was her intention. So because she didn't say anything, I suspect she's everyone's sort of projecting this onto her. One of our friends, Pethy, brief cheerio, Pethy, if you're listening. She said, "Oh no, Erin's walking out with holding the kids. Don't say this is her last." And I just didn't have time because it was too exciting watching the match to say she took the kids out last time. Calm down, everyone, just calm down. No, so I think she's got more in her. What do you think, Kiwi?
She takes the kids out every game. Yeah. But yeah, I actually looked at her body language, and it looked to me like she had sort of accepted that could perhaps be her last. I hope I'm wrong. I think what may come into the picture is perhaps Chelsea Randall may have played her last. Only because I know she's had a couple of serious concussions this year, and she's had some previously in her football career, and obviously, much more awareness around CTE and what it can do in your later life. I think maybe Chelsea might start to consider, other options, and that could mean that Erin stays in the team to add a little bit of experience. Or she may stay and be hungry. She played for the Opals for a couple of Olympics, I think, before they won it, and so she's been in big matches before and not won, and stayed to get the bigger medal. So hopefully she won't stay on her 2 medals. Hopefully she'll come back for a third.
That'd be nice. I hope she does, because she's just an incredible athlete, and it's so much fun to watch, and she's great for the sport. In fact, in my personal opinion, I don't know if this has been expressed by anybody, but I think eventually they should name the best and fairest after Erin Phillips. And in my personal opinion, I think that would be a great gesture for such a great stalwart of the AFLW in these early years.
Just not while she's still competing for it. Because
she have to present it to herself.
That's right. Yeah, she really is wonderful to watch. She's as you say, Donnie, she's a phenomenal athlete. And we said someone made a comment on our panel a few podcasts ago about she had a quiet game. She only kicked 2 goals, and that is quiet for Erin Phillips. But her athleticism, her accuracy, her efficiency, it's a wonder to watch. She's a great player to watch. So I really hope we haven't seen the last of her. I wonder. I actually thought she might hang on until Port Adelaide came in, and she'd swapped to Port Adelaide, because that's the team that her father played for. And in fact, before the league was launched, she donned a Port Adelaide Guernsey and said, "I'm right to play." And then the AFL came back and said, "Excuse me, but the Port Adelaide hasn't got a license. Take that off."
That's when Collingwood should have come in and said, "Excuse me, father-daughter rule, you're a Collingwood player." Because her dad played for Collingwood as well.
Oh, he played for both, yeah?
Yep.
Right.
So big mistake by Collingwood recruitment in season 1 to let that talent slip through their fingers.
I didn't realise he'd played for Collingwood as well. And yeah, it's just add that to all the other mistakes they made in their first year. But my goodness, how they've grown over the years. They're like a fairy tale story, Collingwood. They were rubbish. A foundation team who were rubbish, and now look at them. They're amazing. Wonderful to watch.
Well, we'll go off that. That's a great little segue there. I love that. Okay, there recently, it's just come out that the AFL is really looking into the eventual to potential expansion as early as next year. For you two, really quick, yes or no? Is expansion going to be a good idea, or do we kind of wait on it to let more talent build a little bit to where we aren't going to see the rating, kind of like Coach Starcevich said after in the post game, that they said that Jeff Kennett, the leader of Hawthorn, was like, the Hawks need an AFLW team, and Coach Starcevich was quite adamant that he thinks that it may not be such a good idea at this present point. So going off that, since we kind of mentioned Port Adelaide, since Port Adelaide is one of the 4 teams that does not currently have an AFLW license, expansion, Yes, or should we wait a couple more years and let some more talent come into the league?
No. Look, I think as it currently stands, that CBA that was locked in last season goes for 3 years. So that kind of locks in their payment, their hours allocated to the club each week, and how many games a season they're allowed to play. So that's locked in, and so I think you will find it very hard to adjust anything for the 2022 season. 23, is probably a chance for a couple of teams come in. I don't know that there'll be value with 4 new teams coming in. And for Hawthorn, currently in the VFLW competition, I think they're sitting second to last on the ladder, and they've got a bunch of former AFLW players, and a few of the current delisted ones have quickly transferred across to Hawthorn. So they really need to, line their ducks up and really perform solidly next season to earn that license. I just don't think we're ready, and I can see the young talent coming through. There's definitely some great young talent across the states, but I think too much is put on an 18-year-old and what she can perform at this level, whereas if you look at the men's competition, they usually get a couple of years in that, and it's maybe a couple of guys who are 18 play at the AFL level in their first season. They sort of wait till their bodies mature a little bit, and I think with the females it's something similar, and we are starting to get better footy-brained athletes coming through the ranks now, with our NAB league across the states. And Sydney Swans is another one who's got a team entered in. Giants have got a team entered in. So probably they would need another couple, maybe even 3 more seasons of developing that young talent. And,
so that's the under-19s you're talking about, is it?
That's the under-19s, yeah.
National,
so they
national
probably need to really develop an under-21 academy in those states, because the ones here, obviously in Victoria, they're our under-19s this season have pretty much been in the program already about 4 years. Mm-hmm. So quite a head start on what New South Wales has for sure. Queensland and WA, South Australia, they've all had really strong academies over the years. And just, I guess similar in what Victoria are producing is good young talent, and it's really, you're just going to get the cream. You're only going to get probably 3 or 4 players good enough to play at AFLW level straight off the bat. The rest will still need a little bit more development, and you're just not going to get 4 new teams out of that small pool of ready-made athletes. Or you get more Irish to come in. That would probably throw a big spanner in the works.
No, don't do that.
The international stars, There's a few in America that are coming over. There's a Canadian made a debut in the weekend for St Kilda in the VFLW. I think there's an American on her way over. There's a German not far off making her debut in the VFLW. So there's international talent.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
At the ready.
Who's the US player who's playing AFLW level for the
Danny
Bulldogs,
Marshall.
is it? Danny Marshall.
Danny Marshall. She kicked a few yesterday. Took a few grabs against Darabin.
Oh, at the VFLW. She's playing
apparently she is put word out asking for a mortgage broker. So one would assume she's planning to stay in Victoria for a while.
Well, look, I am itching for expansion. We're all Swans fans in the room today, in the Zoom room today. I want a Swans team. I want them, and I want them now. But
me too.
But that's just, it's just, they're just not ready. I did latch onto one thing that Craig Starcevich said, which was a slap back to Jeff Kennett. Jeff Kennett's also a former premier of Victoria, and roundly loathed, I think you could say, amongst, part of the population. Anyway, he made a big fuss, as you said. He's wanting Hawthorn to have an AFLW team now. But Craig's point was, where were you when the licenses were being handed out? Where were you when the applications were going in? Nowhere. Just like Swans, nowhere. Not interested. So what was interesting in the first year is that not everyone who applied for a license got one. And St Kilda were one of the teams who put in, one of the clubs who put in a really good application, I'm told, and were knocked back, whereas other clubs like Magpies, Collingwood, perhaps didn't do very much homework. I think they just stayed up and did an all-nighter to do their application the night before, and they got one. So some teams are really miffed, but teams like clubs,
you've got to have Collingwood and Carlton.
This is the women's league. We have our own history. We're building it now, and the rivalry.
You've got to have Collingwood versus Carlton.
The rivalry is not between Carlton and Collingwood. It's between Sydney and Melbourne, the way it always should be.
It is now. We got their best captain.
I don't know.
Should never let Bree Davies go.
Should I stand back and let you?
It's okay, Dom. We're in different states. We're safe at the moment.
So I'm coming to you from Sydney and Kiwis in Melbourne. So we're not going to tear each other apart, at least not in person.
Well here. Okay, so I'll play tiebreaker again for this. I'm kind of actually, I'm really, I've said this in a few podcasts, I'm 50-50 when it comes to AFLW. As much as I would absolutely love to be able to cheer on a Swans women's team, I also know that if we want this product to continue to grow and to continue to get more eyeballs and to continue to get more and more skill, more and more to where it's up to the level that I think a lot of us want it to be, it's going to take some time. I mean, I've said this to a few people, and I know sometimes talking to trolls online is not always a good thing. I said, if you look at the AFLW, one of the main things that so many people use is, well, it's boring footy. And I go, well, no offense. Let's look at the AFL or the VFL at the time it was. When it was 5 years old, I highly doubt the athletes and the skill was as good as it is today. It's had over 100 years of progression. The women's game is 5 years old. Calm down, okay? It will get there. It just takes time. These women need all the pathways. They need more pathways. They're coming, okay? I know I've heard it many times. Many of the states are seeing record progression in women playing footy, young girls playing footy, and now they can play past 12 years old. So I think the talent is eventually going to be there. The coaching needs to get better. That'll come with time. The progression of skill will come eventually. I'm willing to wait. I understand that. I know it stinks every year that the Swans will not have a team there. But if it takes 4 years, but we have a solid comp that comes in with 16 or 18 teams, and there's parity and there's talent and there's skill and there's great play and wonderful games. I mean, this season was absolutely amazing. I loved so many of the games. In fact, towards the end, I cannot wait to ask this question to another question a little bit later. So just a tiny preview there. I think this sport is only going to grow if we give it time. If that means waiting, I'm willing to do that. So I guess I'm kind of perfectly in between you two.
I think what you've got also is people are comparing an apple with an orange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're both fruits. They're both round, but they're very different. And women's footy actually has been around in Victoria. It's probably coming up close to 50 years. Mm-hmm. The problem is that you've got part-time athletes who are juggling often 10 or 12-hour days as their regular employment, then trying to come along and be a part-time athlete, and you only can fit so many hours into that 24. And so the expectation is that this AFLW league itself is on the same scale as the men's, but it really isn't. And anyone who looks at a score doesn't even understand the game, because the rules are different. The way females kick the ball is different. Time-wise, they're playing about half the time of the men. Mm-hmm. If you watch men's footy, it's 3 kicks, you've got a shot at goal. Women's footy, you're really probably looking at 4 or 5 kicks till you get a shot at goal. So the ball is a lot lighter, so it travels in the air a little bit different. But there's so many, differentials to why the output looks different. And I guess the key one would be, definitely give them a full-time wage and put them in as full-time athletes, and then you'll see that ability grow a lot more as well. But prior to AFLW, we actually had state versus state football. So around about the best 30 athletes in each state would play against each other in a week-long carnival. So a different challenge when you're playing usually about 6 games or 7 games across a week. And we had, I do remember playing against Daisy Pearce. She was young, very young then. Victoria would send an under-19 team in, so you got the likes of Daisy and Jess Dalpos, Mel Hickey, those kinds. But I think what we missed out on, or what the fans of the game have missed out on, is seeing the likes of Debbie Lee at her peak. Peter Searle was a ferocious midfielder. I did not like playing anywhere near her. Luckily, I wasn't a midfielder. Shannon McFerrin was another one who is an absolute talent through the middle, but speed. She just had speed to burn. But there's some really classy athletes around that. Because we didn't have the cameras, we didn't have the media, and probably weren't run by the AFL, people didn't get to see that talent. But certainly we played some really good football, and even back then we had athletes from other codes that had come across and played. So the cross code isn't a new thing. It has probably always been around. I think in Sydney, most of our first couple of New South Wales teams had a big chunk of former athletes from other sports. So they just brought a different dynamic to the game. But yeah, it's I think it comes down to, and also the coaching. There's a lot of coaches who have only been involved in the male game, and I think they're slowly starting to learn that female athletes as a body is a different body. So you can only do so much with that physically, let alone the way they play their game. So I think they're still learning and developing what they can get structural wise in the output on the field as well. So yeah, certainly it's getting better and it's growing, but yeah, full-time athletes would be a really awesome way to go.
I completely agree, and I hope very soon it happens. I know it's not going to be a quick thing, but I hope eventually it will happen. And I wanted to let you both know here, with my team, the Des Moines Roosters, we actually do have a women's program. We don't have a ton of girls. We're slowly working our way in, but I'm thoroughly enjoying working with them. And they have this intense, they want to learn, they want to play the game, and I've thoroughly enjoyed watching and helping them progress, and I completely agree with you. Like, coaching ladies is a little bit different than coaching guys, so it takes a little bit of it's a lot of fun, because the one thing I got to give the male players on my team is that we've all invested in the girls. During trainings, we train together. When we have what we call metro games or scrimmages, the girls are playing the guys, and the girls will even say, guys, if you want to tackle us. We're only going to get better. And I think that really has helped out our ladies this year. And I'm hoping that with hopefully with COVID getting somewhat handled over here, we'll get back this season. In fact, the last time I talked with it sounds like we may have a couple of new girls joining us this year. So I cannot wait to get
fabulous.
I know I cannot wait for that. Now, unfortunately, our AFL season is over. We don't get as long a season with the AFL, unfortunately. I wish it were more. I've had so much fun watching it, but I gotta ask, kind of, what are your thoughts about AFL season 5, AFLW season 5? Was it a success? Was it what you thought it was? Did you see the progression in the game the way you thought it was? Are you excited for next year already, even though we're only 1 or 2 days away from the end of the season?
I'm sad. I'm sad it's over. We'll have to go and visit Kiwi and see some VFLW games and see the Sydney comp as well, just to get my fix every week. It was definitely, the improvement was definitely palpable, definitely observable. I think that because we only played half a season last year, and then the players had that amount of time to get ready for this season. I think we saw stronger bodies, faster bodies, better skills. I think, ironically, the pain of not having a full season last year has meant that this year's season was as great as it was. I think it was a complete success, and I just can't believe it's over. And looking forward to next year. Kiwi, what about you?
Yeah, obviously I'm sad that it's over too. I'm very grateful I've got VFLW down here, and our NAB league for the girls is almost over too. Was also sad, but yeah, I think it was a tremendous season, and I think you could possibly those first few rounds see the gap of the states that got to play a little bit of footy last year versus the Victorians who had no football. It sort of took them a few rounds to get back into the speed. You know, when you're playing an opponent, you can do so much at training, but when you're actually in a game scenario, there's a speed and there's the impact that comes with it. And I think it just took those teams just a few rounds to get back into it.
And that's a real worry when it's only 9 rounds that you play.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have spare rounds to get ready, do you?
Yeah, and now with just about all states shifting their main state competition to the summer to align with AFLW means they're going to have a longer break. Usually most states now will finish around about June instead of September. So there's a bigger gap before the players come back. So it means, you know, instead of perhaps the potential of getting, what would they get, probably 15 games in a season, some of them may only get 10 to 12 games in. So it's a few less games, so that means probably a slower progression as each player develops as well. But you know, it also has the upside where players will come fresh back into pre-season training and hopefully be able to build or take the off-season time to get into the gym and just build more solid physiques. And I think we're seeing a bit more of that with AFLW 5 is definitely more speed in the game. A lot of the small players really shown out, you know, your Sinead Goldricks, your Courtney Hodders. I think every team had an outstanding small, quick player. The Irish girls were super quick, so we spoke about them, I think, each week. But yeah, definitely with those kind of athletes that bring speed, then you're bringing faster movement with the football. You're bringing harder impact in the collisions and the tackles. And Soph Casey was a classic. I can't remember who it was that ran into her when Collingwood were at home at Vic Park one, maybe round 7, I think it was. Someone turned right round and went smack into her and just laid her out flat. Just shows the absolute speed of which players are now getting the ball and turning and running with it. So the game is starting to flow a little bit quicker as well. Less just standing the marks. They're sort of taking the ball on a bit more. So it is becoming a more exciting game, and certainly season 5 is just an extension from the part of season 4 that we had.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this was, and I'll raise my hand here. This was the first full season that I watched almost every game. I kept an eye on it, and I was not disappointed. The footy was moving quickly. There was scoring. There was tackling. Like, I love seeing the physical hits. I love seeing the bumps. I love seeing the just the toughness of the game. It was absolutely awesome. In fact, I've said this in a few podcasts, and I don't mind saying it again. I've become a card-carrying member of the Lily Mithen fan club. I absolutely love that little spark plug. I love watching her play because she can get absolutely destroyed in a tackle. She bounces right up like the Energizer Bunny, and she's right back in the game.
With a big smile on her face.
Exactly. Like, I absolutely loved watching her play. The Demons became my favorite team to watch there at the end. I have to admit, I became a supporter of the D's as they went into the finals this year. I honestly thought they had a chance to get to the finals, and I think they ran out of gas against the Crows in the preliminary finals. And so kind of going off that is, so I grabbed onto a team. Who's a team that you're looking at next year being kind of your surprise, like the team you're really looking forward to watch, and who's maybe a player from a team, a player that you're really looking forward to seeing play next year?
Well, I think I'm looking forward to what the D's can bring next year. I think they've been hurt enough for it to spur them on. They were always supposed to, I feel like they still haven't quite hit their stride Although, I mean, they did pretty well this year. But I'm excited to see Daisy come back next year and all their stars stand up. It did look as if they were surprise contenders this year. We wrote them off at the start of the year on the Coat Hanger Football Radio Show, and we're eating humble pie now because every week they surprised us. And then when they reached finals or the final couple of rounds, we wrote them off again and said, well, they haven't actually had to face any really good quality teams. This will be their downfall. No, they got through, and then they got through to preliminary finals as well. So I think I'm really looking forward to seeing them. In terms of a player, an individual player, well, I want to see what Courtney Hodder does next year, but she's already a superstar in my mind.
I think Courtney will just grow another season and come out stronger. I think Bulldogs will be an interesting team to watch next year. I think what Nathan Burke did last season was recruit, or the last 2 years, recruit a lot of his under-18 players when he was in charge of the Vic Metro team. So by next year, they'll be coming into their second and third seasons playing AFLW. So I think that they will be a little bit mature football-wise, and their bodies will be a little bit more conditioned to playing against senior women. So I think, and he started to show signs of some really good game structures that the players could do on the field and take the game on against some tough opposition. So I think Bulldogs are going to be a team to watch next season. I think Collingwood obviously will go back to the drawing board and look at areas where they need to polish. I know they already have. They're sort of talking to a couple of players that are on the edge now about performance and whether they stay on the list or not. But already, they're going to need a tool. So probably a couple of tools to come into the team. So they'll be on the lookout for that. And as for a young player, I can tell you probably Georgia Prasparkas is a name that's getting floated around a lot. And so I had a little bit to do with our Vic Metro under-19. But she's a gun player, and by all regards, people have said she's better than Maddie, her bigger sister or older sister. But the way she goes about her game is just sublime. She's just an exciting young talent, and there will be a fight over her. I had this discussion yesterday. Is obviously Carlton would love her, so maybe Carlton may want to trade Taylor Harris back to Queensland, get Gold Coast to pick her up so they can pick up the number one draft get an early in Victoria. So that's probably how I'm looking at it, that they might want to do some mathematics around that. If Taylor wants to go home, she might not want to go home, but certainly I think Carlton will be looking at how they can get in that draft early so they can nab Georgia before Geelong, I think, currently have the first Victorian pick in the draft. So definitely that kind of young talent coming through. But Ali McKenzie from Richmond, I thought she was outstanding in her first season this year, and if she can back it up, is going to be exciting. Usually we see these number one drafts and they go great guns in the first season and then have a quiet second year. So if she can grow on what she did this year, she's just going to be phenomenal for Richmond. So that's who I'm saying. Look out.
All right. Well, Coach Kiwi with a great lead up into mine. My team to look out next year, I think, is Richmond. I think the way Richmond started to play towards the end of the year after they got that first win down in Geelong, they started becoming a team that just gave everybody headaches. Having Monique Conti in the midfield and then Ellie McKenzie, I completely agree with you. She took a few rounds to warm up to AFLW, but once she did, she became an absolute gun. The hanger that she took in the last game of the regular season, yes, it was on a shorter player, so we kind of take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I really love Richmond. I think they're going to be a fun one. I completely agree with you, Fee. I think Melbourne is going to be a team to watch out for next year. And then I agree, Ellie McKenzie. And then I want to see, kind of going off what Coach said, is Ella with Fitzgerald from the Bulldogs. I think she had sparks of great play, and then she kind of disappeared in a couple of games. So I want to see how she kind of handles the second year. Maybe because she didn't have a superstar first season, and maybe her second year, now that she knows kind of how each game goes, maybe she'll blow up, and it'll make that Western Bulldogs midfield quite difficult to play against every day, just with that talent in that area. And when you've got a couple of absolute guns with Bonnie Too Good and Isabel Huntington up front, the Bulldogs are another team that are going to be scary good next year if they can keep everybody in the camp for sure. So that's kind of mine there. So to kind of round out an amazing AFLW season. I again, so much fun. One of the last questions I will ask for this episode is, what was the game of the year for you? What was the one game that if you could go back right now and watch it, because it was the game you just can't miss? What was your game of the season this year?
Donnie, I've forgotten everything except the grand final.
That's the problem.
think of
9
anything
rounds, the
else
season's
now.
a blur.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my pick. I'm going to watch it again. I've watched little snippets over and over, but I'm going to watch it again and again.
I
It's
think
not
for
a bad one.
me, probably, yeah, it's not biased at all, but I think obviously a Collingwood game, but Collingwood versus North. Just North is full of talent, and expected to be in the top 4, perhaps the top 2 this season, and just the absolute way that Collingwood shut them down the night they played at Marvel Stadium. Just anyone would have thought that was not a real North team they were playing against. I think they finished the game with 4 points or something. It's the only time they've not scored a goal. But just to see how Collingwood worked as a team and what they took into that game and how they just shut down so much talent around the field. There's some, with Carney, with Ashmore, with Garner, Duffin played, so much talent in that North team, just could not get a run on. So, there's a good game to watch for any level, coaches and players, to look at how to just take on a really solid opponent and shut them completely out of the game.
I'm kind of surprised you guys didn't remember this. It's hard for me not to say this because it was probably one of the craziest finishes the entire year, and that's Fremantle going to Vic and beating Carlton late in the game with Gemma Houghton and Sabrina Duffy. I mean, I can't believe how that game ended. That was absolutely insane ending to the game.
Yep.
It kept Frio's chances of making the finals. It pretty much ended Carlton's chances of making the finals at that particular time. So that is a game that I'm gonna go back and try to watch over the off season, because just the absolute insanity that was the ending, that the fourth quarter, where Frio could do nothing until the fourth quarter, and then bang.
We were at that game, Donnie.
You don't have to watch that whole game. Just watch the fourth quarter, because Freo were rubbish the other 3 quarters. But absolutely, that last quarter is worth watching over and over. It was
extraordinary, wasn't it? Just extraordinary. We were at that game, and I think the reason we've forgotten it is that we were sitting with Carlton players.
Oh boy.
Carlton supporters, sitting with Carlton supporters, and we. It was a quiet evening. And actually, Georgina Hibbard, who's written the book Never Surrender, she was with us as well. So it was a great collegial kind of time until Carlton lost. And then all our Carlton supporting friends, just had nothing to say.
There really wasn't much to say, unfortunately. It kind of ruined so many things, not only the game, but just it really did kind of end Carlton's chances of making the finals in that one. And then another one that I just thought of that I thoroughly enjoyed was the Melbourne versus Adelaide at Casey Fields. I think it was round 5 or 6. And Melbourne's win, and I remember just how impressive Melbourne played in that game, because I think a lot of people didn't give them the shot. I mean, Adelaide is still one of the best teams in the league. And again, grand finalists this year. Yes, they came up short, but that Melbourne team, I agree with you. In our preview show that I had with the ladies from Chicks Talking Footy, we all thought, I mean, Melbourne, they lost O'Day early in the year. They thought, they're going to be down towards the bottom of it. And for them to just have the season that they did, and that game was kind of a microcosm of their year. They were in it, and then they really kind of overwhelmed Adelaide in that game. I mean, Casey Fields has become a fortress for the Melbourne Demons,
Yep.
and that was an incredibly fun game to watch.
Yep, we were at that one too. In fact, that was following, am I correct in saying this, Kiwi, that was following the game, the Giants game at St Kilda at RACA Park, where we were soaked to the bone.
Sideways rain.
Sideways rain.
I remember watching that one
we drove
too.
all the way out to Casey Fields. Yeah, that was very surprising. And yeah, as you say, it was a great match to watch. Really wonderful being there.
Another classic match was probably when North hosted Freo.
Mm-hmm.
And that went down to the wire, and I think it was a goal apiece and then another goal apiece, and just a really close, tight match. But yeah, the Demons, the last 3 games, I think by round 5 we had said, right, their run home, 3 top teams, not a chance. And then they went out and won all 3. So yeah, absolute. If you're a Demons fan, you'll be watching those last 3 matches for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it was so much fun for me. Well, ladies, this has been an absolutely awesome conversation. It's so awesome to actually get to talk with you. I know, Fee, we've been going back and forth on instant messages on Twitter. But I really want to give you ladies the opportunity to be able to share your show here, the Coat Hanger Footy Show. So if you want, for any Australians or maybe even Americans who have not heard of the Coat Hanger podcast, I will let you kind of explain what it is, who's all on the show, and kind of what your show is about.
Coat Hanger Football Radio Show, 7 p.m. on 7 p.m. Eastern Australian Standard Time on a Monday night. Well, only one more actually after this one. So we'll be doing the show tonight at 7 p.m. And then on podcasts afterwards. So we tackle women's footy with a Sydney view, and we have the illustrious Coach Kiwi, Tracy Kick, Nat Morgan, and Emma Phillips, all who are ex-players and have some coaching chops, and Kiwi is currently coaching all over the shop in Victoria. I should say Nat Morgan is still playing. She's playing in masters level football. She can't hang up the boots just yet. So we do a general view of the AFLW season and each round, but we want to bring a Sydney view to it because we feel a little bit like Sydney gets overlooked in in the player counts, and sometimes when there are great players, there've been a few players in the last couple of seasons, and we have to say, excuse me, they actually came from New South Wales ACT football. They're one of ours. So we're following those players as they move around. So there are some who left Giants and went to other teams. So we follow their progress, and we just want the league, the entire league to build and grow. And we also want the league, the Sydney comp, to grow and to contribute more and more players to the league. So our final show next week is going to be an exploration of that very subject. So tune in, folks.
It's kind of more a show where we don't have a Victorian bias. Aussie
Yes.
Rules in Australia has a very Victorian bias, and most media outlets are very Victorian biased. And all you have to do is listen to anyone when they talk about who the medal or the cup should be named after, aside from Erin Phillips, but often they talk about it being named after Debbie Lee or Sue Alberti, who have been outstanding patrons of the game in Victoria, without a doubt. But I can tell you, for the 17 years I played in New South Wales, they do didn't do anything for us. So, and on a national level, you know, a lot of what Deb did was in Victoria, and same with Sue. She was, you know, very phenomenal in backing the Bulldogs having an exhibition team entered in back in 2014. But so yeah, so we probably give a bit of an open view, and we'd more likely nominate someone like Jan Cooper, who really pushed for the competition nationally and doesn't get mentioned near as much unless you're from WA, is where she is based. But certainly she was the one back in, I remember having conversations with her in 2009 and 2010. And as she put it, she would go into those offices and rattle their cages until they would sit up and listen to her talking about women's footy and taking women's footy seriously. And back then they were talking about, if we have a women's comp, it won't be till 2020. So yeah, Jan Cooper did a lot of rattling of the cages, but yeah, certainly for us, it's I guess the voice outside of Victoria is what we've tried to be.
Yeah.
And different people like me and Tracy do coaching, or have done. Tracy doesn't coach so much anymore, and all four of us played a bit. And Nat Morgan was actually my first state captain, so I certainly learnt some toughness from her. And then Fee is our wonderful host, who has it down pat and has the viewers from fandom world, so keeps us in check for most of the show.
I do try.
Well, coming from a fan's point of view, I love the episodes. Fee, you're awesome. You're absolutely hilarious as the host. I love it. I love Coach Kiwi's
Thanks.
kind of experience. All the girls. I know that the tipping comp seems to have caused a little bit of drama, which I absolutely, I was laughing hysterically as I was listening to all of the drama, whether somebody was going to win or not, and all the changes. So it was absolutely hilarious. So coming from a fan to you guys, keep up the great work. I love the show a lot. Even if it is just me over here that's listening to it, at least you have one person that can give you some kudos. So. All right. Well, that I think we'll shut her down for today. Go ahead, Coach.
Can I just give a little shout out to, and I hope you listening in lots, Catherine Hogg is a legend in USAFL, one of the founders of the USA Freedom Women's Team, and I met her back in 2008, I think it was, when they travelled out here. So got a soft spot for freedom naturally, and all the work that Catherine Hogg has done over there, and also our mates at Hawaiian Eagles. We hope to return to you one day soon.
Yep.
Yeah, Cat Hogg is an absolutely amazing. She's definitely a pusher, and she's not too far from me. She's up in Minnesota, just north of where I am here in Iowa. So I know Cat quite well. Yes, and the Hawaii Eagles, and trust me, everybody over here in the USAFL wants to play a game out there, because going to Hawaii is like perfect. So that's a great shout out. So I think that will do it for our episode. Again, thank you so much, Fee and Coach Kiwi. Thank you so much for joining me today. Fourth and Long fans, that is our AFL season in a nutshell, to be completely honest with you. I will be back again next year with AFLW, and keep an eye out, because there may be some more Donnie's Disposals with AFL connections coming up. So that will do it for me. Hope you have a great night, and we will see you again soon.